Hi, everyone. I'm Nina Barnett from McKenzie Health System, and I would like to welcome you to Healthy Living Together. We are going to go through a few housekeeping items. First of all, your audio is automatically muted. We will be using the Q&A function down at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions. And this event will be recorded, and we will send a link in a follow-up email. Today we're going to be talking with Kristina Myers. She is our registered dietitian for McKenzie Health System. And her topic today is going to be eating for a healthy heart. So I would like to introduce Kristina and get this started for us.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day, and what a perfect month to talk about eating healthy for a heart, right? Oh no, hold on. There we go. Today's topics will cover risk factors, reading the nutrition label, reducing sodium, smart shopping tips, choosing those heart healthy fats, and as well as choosing heart healthy carbohydrates. So heart disease in the United States, it refers to several types of heart conditions. The most common is going to be your coronary artery disease, and then the other ones are going to involve the valves of the heart and the efficiency of the heart causing heart failure. So kind of take a moment and think about that. One person dies every 36 seconds from cardiovascular disease. These are common risk factors for heart disease. This may include high blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, smoking, excessive alcohol use, physical inactivity, being overweight or obese, and having that unhealthy diet. So today we're really focusing on that diet, as well as, getting your steps in and getting physically active. So with healthy diet, increasing that physical activity and managing body weight. So adult need at least 150 minutes, which you can break that down, that's 2 hours and 30 minutes to 300 minutes. This includes aerobic activity, get your heart pumping, brisk walking, fast dancing each week. So one thing that I like to do, I love jamming out and putting music on, put a timer on, 30 minutes, put my favorite hits on and dance my heart away. At the end of it, I'm sweating, right? So that's an easy, fun way of getting some aerobic activity. This does not include just your physical everyday going to work, although it does help if you park a distance away and walk, or taking the stairs instead of sitting all day, maybe standing up. So you can also break down the physical activities into little chunks. So if you're doing the 150 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes, right? You can take that and do 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Or you can even break that into chunks, like say, let's do 10 minutes yoga in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you're going to do 10 minutes of something. And then right before bed, you're going to do 10 more minutes. And then if you're doing the longer 300 minutes, maybe do 1 hour, 5 days a week, and break that into chunks. I'm going to do 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes there. So really getting yourself up there, increasing that physical activity is going to be very helpful. Reading the nutrition label, this is my favorite. This is going to really help you conquer those goals. This is an example of a nutrition label. The first thing is noted is the serving size. So there's 8 servings per container, and the serving size is 2/3 cup. So keep in mind what, if you're eating more than that 2/3 cup, so if you're eating double, you're going to double all the nutrients. The calories are in big, bold. So if you know that you're on an 1800 calorie, that kind of is nice to look to see what you're eating. If it's a snack food, right, you want to make sure that the calories aren't like 800 calories for a snack. That's way too high. Now, if you look at the total fat, right? So we're right over here, it says 8 grams. And then there's saturated fat and trans fat. And I'm going to go in detail of what those fats are. So over here, you want to choose less than 5 grams of total fat per serving. So this item has 8 grams, so it's not on my favorite list. But you also want to look at the saturated fat. So with the saturated fat, you want about 2 grams, well, less than 2 grams. So this is 1 gram, so that's thumbs up for me. The other thing is trans fat. You want to avoid this at all costs. So 0 grams of fat, perfect, right? That is, we are looking for that 0 grams of trans fat. We're looking less than 2 grams for the saturated fat. So thumbs up for me. Now, the other thing is the sodium. This is going to be really important for heart health. So eating foods low in sodium is going to be a heart healthy option. In a day, try to stick to less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium. What that looks like is 1 teaspoon of salt. So if you guys can see my little pinky, like the tip of my pinky, and that's so easy to overdo, especially with processed foods. So flip in that nutrition label, look to see how much sodium's in there. So it has 160 milligrams of sodium. So that's a pretty good amount, I would say, if it's a meal. The other thing is looking at the dietary fiber. Now, if you are diabetic, you do want to look at the total carbohydrates, the 37 grams. And if you like to do carb choices, you would divide that by 15. But if for heart health, we're looking at the dietary fiber. You want to aim to do 25 to 30 grams of dietary fiber each day. Anything greater than 5 grams of fiber is awesome. 4 grams is a big thumbs up. This is a higher fiber food. And then the other thing is looking at the total sugars and the added sugars. So with specifically the added sugars, right? So women should consume less than 25 grams of the added sugars. Men, they have a little bit higher, so 37.5 grams. And then this will also include what kind of vitamins and minerals are in there, and then the ingredient label as well. Here are some ways to reduce sodium. So Americans get about 70% of their daily sodium from processed and restaurant foods. And this is readily available everywhere we go. So what are some ways to reduce that sodium? Try to eat more fresh foods. This may include those fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as frozen vegetables and fruits with no added sauces. I know there's much products out there now that have like broccoli sauce mixed with the broccoli. Try to get the ones that are just plain frozen vegetables. You can also get vegetables that are canned. Just make sure that they're in low sodium. They're going to provide the same nutrient basis between the frozen, fresh, and canned. And canned will be a little bit less, but looking at what's in season, what's more accessible. And I personally love frozen broccoli because it saves so much time. I don't have to cut everything and wash it. I can just pull a bag of broccoli out and add it to any of my dishes. The other thing is looking at processed items, meat. Right? So if you can make your own hamburgers from scratch, that's going to be a lot less sodium than those ones that are already pre-packaged and made for you. This is going to also include the bacon, the sausage, the hot dogs. Those are loaded with sodium. It's preservatives. They want those items to last in the store for a long period of time. So if you can make it at home fresh, that's going to save you a lot of sodium to begin with. The other thing is use less salt at the table when cooking. Definitely don't have a salt shaker out so you're not tempted to keep adding that salt to the food. Add those seasonings, and we'll go over all of my favorite little seasonings as well. And then restaurant foods. Now we know that 70% we're getting that from processed foods. So when you're going out, be smart. Let the server know, hey, I'm on a lower salt option. Can you, if you're driving through a McDonald's, you can say, can you not add salt to my hamburger? Can you not, add butter to my English McMuffin? But you can definitely add no salt on the fries. You can do no salt on the burger or chicken. They do add extra salt on those items. So you can always ask, hey, can you just lean off on that? And then they also have many special menus, and you can access the nutrition label on all of the fast food. So McDonald's, Dairy Queen, their nutrition labels on all the foods they serve is online. So you can see how much fat, how much sodium you're consuming. The other thing is when we mandated the fast food to have those nutrition labels available to the public, the newer items started to come in, those seasonal items. So those typically are a little bit healthier. Think about McDonald's, where they're never going to take away those chicken nuggets or those fries, but the new seasonal items might have less fat and less sodium because they have to provide those nutrition labels. All right, so here are the flavorings. These are salt-free. They're great to pair with different types of meats, with vegetables, and even desserts. I personally love mushrooms. I could put mushrooms with any of them. And as you can see, mushrooms are a pretty big one with most of the protein. Now, veal, I found that this is really common in Michigan. When I moved up here, everyone likes veal, and at least I think. So there's a lot of different things you can play with it. You can do some apricots, basil, oregano, paprika, curry, ginger. Any of those items are going to be really well. Also, Mrs. Dash is a salt-free seasoning, and they come with many different kinds. I know the original ones sometimes a little bland, but they have so many ones for steak, for chicken, for fish. So you play around with spices. Anytime you can add those fresh herbs, it brings out color. It's a nice garnish. And it's also, you don't need that much sodium for that flavor because you're getting it from those herbs and salt-free seasonings. So smart shopping, when you're looking at that sodium, kind of going in pair with reducing sodium, there's many advertisements out there when you go and you see salt-free, very low sodium, reduced salt, and it gets very confusing. So be aware when it says reduced sodium and salt. For example, Lay's chips, they have one in like beautiful blue color. I love that color. And it says reduced sodium. So yes, it is a healthier option than getting the regular chips, but just know that it is still very high in sodium. They just reduced it by a little bit and put the big advertisement on there. So know that it's not always going to be low sodium. Is still going to be high in sodium. It's just not as high as the original product. So when they say salt-free or sodium-free, flip that nutrition label over. It should have 5 milligrams of sodium per serving or less. When it says very low sodium, it's still going to contain 35 milligrams. And then low sodium is going to be 140 milligrams. So out of all of those, the salt-free or sodium-free is going to be your best option. The middle is going to be very low sodium, and then the one that's kind of an advertising campaign is the reduced sodium. And another thing with smart shopping is organizing that grocery list. Try online pickup. I've just started doing this and it saves so much time. It helps me not grab little items off the shelves, but also categorize them. So put all your frozen food together, put all your dry food together. That way you're saving time. And if you have Alexa, she does this for you. So that kind of is nice. All right, so onto the fats. First thing, you want to avoid that trans fat. I know I said in the beginning with the nutrition label, 0 trans fat, right? So when you're looking at the nutrition, the ingredients, look for the partially hydrogenated oil. So that is going to be very high in those trans fat. and it's going to increase the LDL cholesterol. LDL, you want low. Like, it's not the good one. HDL, I think of happy. So you want that higher. LDL is the bad one, and you want that low. So this is going to be found in your baked goods, some of those fried foods. So really look at the hydrogenated oils for that. That's going to be where you see that trans fat go up. Reducing saturated fat. So this is the other one. This is the biggest contributor. You can find that when we were looking at the nutrition label, it was like 1 gram. So that's actually pretty good, but you want to stick to that 2 grams or less for saturated fat. But this is the biggest contributor to raised LDLs. And it comes mostly from animal-based protein, but sometimes plants. Example, coconut oil has gotten huge fame over being healthy for everything. I mean, I know people that put coconut oil on their dogs. So for diet purposes, coconut oil is considered a saturated fat. So it is not a heart healthy fat to cook with. I would like to see using other fats like olive oil, canola, and we'll go over those oils, but no coconut oil. Just stop using it for cooking. You can keep using it on other stuff, but don't cook with it. So the other thing is you want to switch over to choose leaner protein, those low-fat dairy foods, to reduce that saturated fat. You can get options on the market now with low-fat cheese, skim milk, non-fat cottage cheese. So choose those items. Cut off any excess fat when you're cooking. Choose the loins. Anything that's leaner is going to be heart healthier. Other thing is boosting those vegetables up, adding that color. Try incorporate those legumes, those beans and vegetables together, right? That's going to really help reduce that saturated fat, and it will also help with the cholesterol levels. So these are the healthy fats, polyunsaturated and monounsaturated, when used in place of those saturated fats. So if you're eating, like, let's say steak, and you're putting olive oil on it, you're still getting that saturated fat. So you got to use it in place. So if you're skip that butter and use olive oil. So in place, make sure that's going to really help with those values. What are unsaturated oils? Those also include corn, soy, sunflower, canola, those vegetable oils. My favorite one is olive oil. I've also used avocado oil. I just got that. And it has a higher smoking point. So like the nutrients stay a little bit longer. So that is also considered monounsaturated. The other ones that do count under the mono and polyunsaturated are seeds and nuts. Walnuts are one of my favorites for heart health. And salad dressings, using those unsaturated fats, looking for the soy or canola. Now, if the ones that you get from olive oil, if you refrigerate them, they do kind of clump up together. It hardens. So usually most dressings are from soy-based oil. And I love my little avocado affirm Will saying, hey, you're a healthy fat and you're a good fat. I thought that was really cute. So this is an example of, hey, let's do little steps. Instead of using that butter, let's try using those vegetable-based spreads that are going to be reduced fat. Instead of doing beef, pork, or poultry with skin, try to incorporate some fish and seafood. I would recommend with the Mediterranean diet to at least do 1 or 2 times a week where you incorporate seafood. Seafood is going to be lower in fat, so it's going to be a really leaner choice. And it also provides those healthy omega-3s. And so it's just really great overall food. Now, of course, if you're picking beef and pork, just pick leaner and try to, maybe incorporate poultry as a chicken breast without skin, cooking in those healthy herbs without that salt. Instead of chips, crackers, and snack food. So this is really common when you get home, perhaps, and all of these beautiful snacks are staring at you, or maybe even at work. So try raw or unsalted nuts or seeds or nut butters. There's almond butter now. So you can really play around with what you like. For example, if I'm looking at my work, I have my, can you guys see this? I don't know if you can see my camera or not, but right? So whole almonds, I have these on my desk. So when I'm running late to work or, you know, that I don't get to eat breakfast, I will have a few of these with my morning tea. But it also says unsalted almonds. So this is a really, really great snack to have. Hummus with vegetables, and you can make your own. If you've never made hummus before, the special ingredient is tahini. But it's very delicious if you make it yourself, and it's very easy to do. You just blend some chickpeas, olive oil, that tahini, roasted red pepper. I love that, but you can really play around. Avocado on toast. Now, avocado is a nutrient dense fat, so you don't need a lot of that avocado. So you don't want to see eating a whole avocado in one sitting. Maybe try, you know, half on that toast, but so good with like everything. You can get everything bagel seasoning with that, the salt, perfection. All right, so coconut oil and palm oil, right? I was so against coconut oil because of that high saturated fat. So let's switch to that corn, canola, olive, safflower oils, anything that's more plant-based, but not the coconut. That's going to be high in saturated fat. On to our next topic, choosing heart-healthy carbohydrates. So we're talking about that soluble fiber. If you're starting off like with square one, at least try to get 5 to 10 grams, okay? And then work yourself up. When you're increasing fiber, make sure you're staying hydrated. That is very important because you don't want to get constipated and you also don't want to have the other things. So make sure you stay hydrated, drinking plenty of water. Now, if we skip down to the bottom one, limiting those refined carb foods, easy way of getting those limited refined carbs is the sweetened beverages, and so many places have those sweetened beverages available. So really sticking to that water, that sparkling waters that don't have sugar, artificially sweetened beverages, those are going to be also another option. I already drank mine, but this is my little fancy container. I like to drink water out of it. I don't particularly like just plain water. So what I do is I do some frozen blueberries and fill it with ice water. You can also do lemon slices. That's one of my favorites too. And that promotes me to drink more water throughout the day. So what are some rich sources of soluble fiber? Those are going to be really found in a lot of your green leafy vegetables. Now, Valentine's Day was around, so asparagus was a good one. Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, turnips, apricots, mangoes, oranges, so those orange fruits. But also your whole grains, your barley, your legumes, your oats, and oat bran. And the list goes on. There's so many different soluble fiber options. And when you're eating those snacky foods, look at the nutrition label, see what the fiber is. And also with like breads, I think that's a common question. Like there's so many different breads to choose from. If you're looking for heart healthy, I was just talking about this early this morning. I really like Ezekiel bread. So it's really tasty. It's kind of grainy. It's not that super fluffy bread, but it's really good toasted. So definitely checking out that nutrition label would be a great step with finding those high soluble fiber in your snack foods or prepackaged foods, but definitely those apples, fruit, vegetables, beans, legumes, all of that are going to be really high in fiber. So this is one of my favorite websites that I actually found this year, and it's called Love One Today. So if you're an avocado fan like I am, they have so many different recipes on here. And I know a lot of different diets are trendy. So this would be a dairy-free, egg-free, gluten-free, low sodium, vegan, vegetarian, you name it. A sunny spiced lentil bowl with an avocado lime crema. So this is going to be really high in those whole grains. It's going to provide that healthy fat from that avocado. And you really can play with avocado too. You can incorporate it in your baked goods instead of using that butter. But they have so many different recipes, and they have different ways of how to pick avocados based on like if they're ripe, how to store them. And I know it's coming to that season eventually where it gets warm, where we can have plenty of those avocados. So here's a summary of what I went over today. So limiting those foods and beverages high in added sugar, right? We want to lower the added sugar, the saturated fat, mostly coming from those animal sources, as well as that coconut oil, palm oil, and sodium. By checking the nutritional label, that's going to be your key. Recap number 2, choosing those heart-healthy, unsaturated fats, olive oil, avocado, those are great. Eating whole unprocessed foods to limit the amount of sodium consumed. So anytime you can use fresh foods, and as well as adding those flavorings. Lastly, eating more plant-based. The more veggies you can add, the better. So if you're having spaghetti, I expect that sauce to be filled with a bunch of different veggies, but also serve a veggie on the side. So this is a really easy way of incorporating vegetables. You can also try soy foods for protein if you're going the vegetarian route. Playing with that is also a great source of protein that is not coming from animal source. All right, and I will hand it over to Nina for a Q&A.
All right, great. So if you guys would like to add your questions to the Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen, there's an actual little button that says Q&A. Kristina would be happy to answer those. To start us off, it looks like we have a question about salt. So I know I do this at my house. I use the pink Himalayan salt because somehow I think it's healthier and I like grinding it and all that fun stuff.
Yes.
But is it actually better for me versus like regular iodized table salt that you buy at the grocery store in bulk?
So first off, budget, right? Because the Himalayan salt is a lot more expensive than the iodized salt. So the iodized salt is going to contain iodine. So originally it was to prevent those goiters. So if you don't know, it's kind of swelling of that neck. And so there's different sea salt out now. So the Himalayan salt, I kind of consider more of a sea salt. It's going to contain those small amount of those trace minerals. And it's going to contain a little bit less sodium than the regular table salt. But they're both going to be the same salt. Like the Himalayan salt has such minuscule amount of those minerals that is really not going to make a difference. Now, you said, I love using it in the grinder because I use less sodium that way because I'm putting a lot more work into it. So you have to make sure that you're enjoying it in moderation. So if it helps you control like adding less sodium to your food, then that's a thumbs up for me. But if you're on a budget and you're thinking that the Himalayan salt is the superior salt, it's not. It just has a little bit less sodium than the iodized salt would, but not providing those extra minerals in abundance like a multivitamin would, or it's still salt. It's kind of giving you for a teaspoon, I think it has 1680 milligrams of sodium. Don't quote me on that, but it has just a little bit less than the regular salt you see out in the market.
Okay. So another question we had is about intermittent fasting, and does it work? And is it based on your age group, your age, or like, what is the purpose of that?
Thank you, Nina, for asking. Intermittent fasting is one that's getting a lot of attention recently. There's more research being done, but there's a very small human studies available for this. This diet does not include like, hey, you need to eat exactly this at this time, how much percentage of carbohydrates, protein, salt you need. It doesn't provide those guidelines like other diets would. Now there's different intermittent fasting approaches. There's one that's alternate day fasting. There's the 5-2 approach. There's the 16-18, and like not beginning with, a lot of religions do it too. So the common method that's most popular is the 16-8 method, which means 16 hour of fasting and the 8 hours where you're getting your regular personal caloric needs within that 8 hour. So I think that really lines up with most people trying to make, what I would recommend is, hey, eat something in the first hour you get up and make sure you're not eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. If, I think that's a great thing to start off with. But intermittent fasting, there's a lot more to that than what I just said. So some contraindications of why you should not follow this diet. If you have type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes, who, you're requiring insulin, or suffering from hypoglycemia, or taking medications that says, hey, reading that medication, does it require you to take it with food? If it requires you to take it with food, please take it with food. There's a reason why. So, making sure, another thing, if you're pregnant or lactate, that's also not recommended for you to be starving. And you definitely have those symptoms of kind of like what you do in a ketogenic diet with tiredness, fatigue, of that hunger cue. Now, some populations that may benefit is ones that have normal nutrition, that may have difficulty with that calorie counting or tracking that intake. So sometimes that is helpful, kind of doing that 16-8 method of trying to, I'm going to have my 3 meals within this 8 hour period. And it doesn't restrict how many calories you're taking in. So it's really difficult right now with limited research. They've done research on rats, but we're not rats. So definitely need more research, but it's one of those diets that are getting attention. And I think that it could be helpful for some people that really struggle with controlling the calorie intake. So I definitely do the more popular one, but stick with that. Don't eat 2 to 3 hours before bed. Eat the first hour you get up. That's a good motto to follow.
Okay. So I had a question about the saturated fats with beef.
Yes.
We eat a lot of venison in our family, so I'm wondering where that would land on the saturated fats. Like, is it more like chicken? Because I know it's not as bad as beef.
Right. No, it is not. So it would fall more into the leaner protein because it does not contain as high fat as the beef would. Now with beef, you want to choose the higher percentage because that's going to be lower in fat. But with veal, it is considered more of the leaner protein.
And venison would fall under.
I mean, sorry, not veal,
okay.
Venison. Yeah, veal's the baby cow.
Yeah.
Venison, yeah.
It's the same animal.
Yeah, no, same animal. So yeah, venison would can be considered as a lean protein. Now the veal and cow and all of that, that's saturated, and you gotta watch the percentage you buy. Yes.
So we also have a question about caffeine. So
Right.
Green tea caffeine versus coffee caffeine, like, is there a difference between the two, or
It's the amount of,
for you?
yeah, it's the amount of caffeine that is in green tea versus coffee. That's the biggest difference. Green tea, I would consider as one of the heart healthy items. So if you're looking for heart health, green tea is great in antioxidants, but so is coffee. It's just really based off of how much caffeine you're drinking throughout the day. They both have their benefits, but I'm pro green tea. But if you're having a cup of coffee in the morning, that still, helps with liver, and sometimes it helps with, going to the bathroom or something like that for some people. So, yeah.
All right, great. Well, that looks like all the questions that we have for today. We will definitely send this link out to all of our guests because this was recorded. And I'd like to thank you for participating with us today, Kristina.
Yeah,
and
thank you so
all
much.
of our participants as well. The next Healthy Lifestyle is going to be March 16th, and it's going to be reading across generations. So we're having some guest speakers from the Sanilac Library, the Sandusky Library, and then also guests from Great Start Collaborative for the Talking is Teaching. So just remember to register for that. And I thank you for participating.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye.